A brief history of ancient Greece. Epics and eminent minds. The history of ancient Greece is among the most captivating narratives in world civilization. It spans thousands of years, marked by the rise and fall of city-states, the development of democracy, the birth of philosophy and science, and the flourishing of the arts. It tells the story of people who, although divided into rival cities, managed to leave a legacy that shaped the Western world. This brief overview presents the major periods of ancient Greek history, from the early beginnings of the Mycenaean world to the Hellenistic era, through the lens of emblematic figures representing each epoch. The Mycenaean period, 1600–1100 BCE. The Mycenaean civilization was the first advanced Greek culture, centered in palatial cities like Mycenae, Pylos, and Tiryns. Influenced by the Minoans of Crete, the Mycenaeans developed a writing system, Linear B, constructed massive citadels, and organized a warrior society under powerful kings. Their culture is known from Homer's epic poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey, which, although written later, reflect memories of this heroic age. A key figure of this era is King Agamemnon, ruler of Mycenae and leader of the Greeks in the Trojan War. Though his historicity is debated, he symbolizes the ambition and tragic fate of a civilization that collapsed suddenly around 1100 BCE, possibly due to invasions, internal unrest, or natural disasters. The fall of Troy, traditionally dated around 1184 BCE, has long fascinated historians. Excavations by Heinrich Schliemann in the late 19th century uncovered remains of a city that many identify as ancient Troy. Meanwhile, Arthur Evans unearthed the earlier Minoan civilization at Knossos on Crete, illuminating the broader Aegean context in which the Mycenaeans thrived. Today, visitors can admire the Lion Gate at Mycenae, an iconic symbol of this period and one of the oldest monumental sculptures in Europe, as well as the so-called Tomb of Agamemnon, or Treasury of Atreus, a beehive-shaped royal tomb known for its impressive architectural precision. The Dark Ages and Archaic period, 1100–480 BCE. Following the fall of the Mycenaeans, Greece entered a period of decline known as the Dark Ages. Writing disappeared, cities shrank, and cultural activity diminished. Yet, around the 8th century BCE, Greece experienced a rebirth. The alphabet was adopted from the Phoenicians, epic poetry re-emerged, and city-states, polis, like Athens and Sparta, began to form. Colonization expanded Greek presence throughout the Mediterranean. The Archaic period is characterized by political and social changes, including the early steps toward democracy. A central figure of this period was Solon of Athens, a statesman and poet who enacted important reforms that eased social tensions and laid the groundwork for Athenian democracy. His legacy proves that laws and justice can guide societies from instability to progress. One remarkable archaeological remnant from this era is the Temple of Apollo at Delphi. Although later expanded, it contains archaic foundations and was home to the famous oracle, drawing pilgrims from across the Greek world. The Classical period, 480–323 BCE. This era represents the pinnacle of ancient Greek culture, beginning with the defeat of the Persians in the Greco-Persian Wars and culminating in the conquests of Alexander the Great. Athens became a beacon of democracy, philosophy, theater, and architecture. The Greek resistance to Persian invasion featured three iconic battles. The Battle of Marathon in 490 BCE, where the Athenians secured a decisive victory, the heroic last stand of King Leonidas and his 300 Spartans at the Battle of Thermopylae in 480 BCE, and the naval triumph at the Battle of Salamis later that same year, which shifted the war's momentum in favor of the Greeks. At the same time, Socrates laid the foundation for Western philosophy with his relentless questioning and emphasis on ethics. His method of dialogue and inquiry influenced generations that followed. Plato, his student, recorded Socrates' ideas and developed his philosophy centered on ideal forms and the nature of reality. He founded the Academy, the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. Aristotle, Plato's student, introduced a systematic approach to science, logic, politics, and ethics. He was the tutor of Alexander the Great and wrote extensively on nearly every area of human knowledge, from biology to metaphysics. Together, these three philosophers represent the core of Greek intellectual life and its enduring impact on global thought. The most emblematic political figure of this period is Pericles, the charismatic leader of Athens during its golden age. Under his leadership, Athens experienced a cultural and political renaissance. He initiated the construction of the Parthenon, a masterpiece of classical architecture dedicated to the goddess Athena. Built between 447 and 432 BCE on the Acropolis, the Parthenon symbolizes the glory and power of Athens and remains a global icon of ancient civilization. Pericles expanded citizen participation in governance, fostered the arts, and supported intellectual life, helping Athens become the intellectual center of the Greek world. However, his ambitious policies also drew Athens into prolonged conflict with Sparta during the Peloponnesian War, ultimately leading to its decline. Modern visitors can explore the entire Acropolis complex in Athens, where the Parthenon, the Erechtheion, and the Temple of Athena Nike stand as remarkable monuments of classical architecture and religious devotion. The Hellenistic period, 323–31 BCE. With the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BCE, the classical era ended and the Hellenistic period began. Alexander, educated by Aristotle, conquered a vast empire stretching from Greece to Egypt and as far east as India. A brilliant military strategist and visionary, he spread the Greek language and culture throughout the known world, laying the foundation for a new, multicultural era. He founded more than 20 cities, many named Alexandria, and encouraged the blending of Greek and Eastern traditions. His vision of a unified world left a lasting legacy on global history, even though his empire quickly fragmented after his death. Among his most famous battles were the Battle of Granicus, 334 BCE, the Battle of Issus, 333 BCE, and the decisive Battle of Gaugamela, 331 BCE, which led to the fall of the Persian Empire. These victories not only demonstrated Alexander's tactical brilliance, but also marked a new era of global integration under Hellenistic influence. Alexander's legacy continues to captivate scholars and explorers. Despite centuries of speculation, his tomb has never been definitively located. Ancient sources suggest that his body was taken to Alexandria in Egypt, where it was placed in a magnificent mausoleum. Though once visited by Roman emperors, the tomb's precise location was lost during late antiquity. The mystery surrounding his final resting place only adds to the legend of a man who, in little more than a decade, reshaped the world. One key intellectual of the Hellenistic world was Archimedes of Syracuse, a mathematician, physicist, and inventor whose innovations in geometry, mechanics, and engineering are legendary. Another significant figure was Pyrrhus of Epirus, a skilled general and statesman known for his costly military victories against Rome, so costly that they gave rise to the term Pyrrhic victory. Pyrrhus envisioned a united Greek world resisting Roman expansion, and although he ultimately failed, his campaigns demonstrated the enduring strength and ambition of Greek leadership. He remains one of the most fascinating figures of the era, combining military skill with a bold, if sometimes impractical, strategic vision. The end of the Hellenistic world came with the Roman conquest of Greece. The decisive moment was the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE, where Octavian, later Augustus, defeated the combined forces of Mark Antony and Cleopatra. This marked the end of Hellenistic independence and the beginning of Roman rule. Final thoughts. The history of ancient Greece is not a linear path, but a complex journey of rise, crisis, rebirth, and transformation. From the palaces of Mycenae to the philosophical schools of Athens and the cosmopolitanism of Alexandria, the Greeks created a legacy that continues to influence thought, art, and politics. Their questions about justice, knowledge, and the human condition remain relevant. Ancient Greece's impact on global civilization is immeasurable. Concepts of democracy, scientific reasoning, drama, and aesthetics born in the Greek world continue to shape modern societies. The architectural harmony of the Parthenon, the philosophical inquiries of Socrates, the military vision of Alexander, and the legislative reforms of Solon, these are more than historical milestones. They are pillars of global heritage. The brilliance of Greek civilization endures not only in museum halls or ancient ruins, but also in the very foundations of contemporary culture and thought.